It is not optional in building a team. If
Mhm.
you want to scale your business, if you
Right.
want to have a business that's going to be beyond you, it's not optional. You have to have people. There's no
Absolutely.
way to do it. There is
One-
no way. And I'm very emphatic about that because I know for a fact that it's not possible without it. But I also know what the possibilities are if you will just hire that first person, hire that fifth person, hire a leader, because there's levels to this thing, right? So hire
Yeah.
your first person that's an individual contributor, right? They're just, doing a thing versus
Mhm.
hiring a manager. Two completely different mindsets, two
Right.
completely different things,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
that's a real life. I mean, I got plenty, but that's one that really sticks out.
Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so fantastic, and one of the reasons why is because of our sponsor, Wilbron, Alabama's premier public relations firm. Y'all definitely check them out at www.wilbron.com. Y'all, I'm so excited to share with you our guest today. Her name is Barbara Mason, and Barbara is the CEO of Career Pathways Consulting, and she brings with her 20 years, over 20 years of HR experience to her consultancy. She specializes in talent management, and she advises female entrepreneurs on how to build and retain great talent. As a sought after speaker, Barbara shares actionable insights on leadership and company culture, empowering entrepreneurs for success. Y'all, put your hands together for Barbara Mason.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Doing well today. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It is absolutely an honor and a privilege to meet with you today. I know you are a busy lady, so I appreciate you carving out time for us to be a part of our show today.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Barbara, I know that you have all these years of experience in HR and talent management. And as we look through, see what's going on in the business world today, there have been so many changes, it seems like, since the pandemic. I'm going to go ahead and say it, the pandemic. So many people don't want to. We just want to put that behind us.
Right.
It seems like there's been a shift in
Absolutely.
how. So yeah, tell me about it. I want to know more about your journey and tell us what you think has shifted since then.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, people don't want to say that word, but it was a defining moment for all of us. But specifically when it comes to the workforce, a lot of things have shifted. One is where people work, obviously. That is the big, thing on the table. Even now, 2 years later, people want to have flexibility about where they work. They do not want to be in the office every day, all day. That has been one of the biggest things that I've seen. The other thing is that this is definitely an employees market, meaning that employees have a choice and they have opinions about where they work. And the third thing I will say that has shifted is that employees really care about who they work for. They want to work for a company where they understand the mission, they agree with their values, and those things were not as prominent as before the pandemic. Not to say that it wasn't there, but it definitely was not in the forefront.
Right. Agreed. 100%. And I even, personally understand that. Do you know what I mean? It's like for my own self, I used to work a full-time day job. Even though I started the business back in 2014, I've always worked it on the side of a corporate job. But then, afterwards, and we are going back, I'm just like, this something needs to change. Things need to be different. And it's too hard, number one, to juggle anymore, especially as the business was growing. And it was just so much more convenient to be at home. I didn't have to deal with the traffic. I had a commute that was like almost 40 minutes without traffic. And living in the Atlanta area, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area, but the
I'm very
traffic is
familiar. Yes.
horrendous. And
Yes.
so not having to buy gas or have to, I shouldn't say wear clothes. We have to wear clothes, but we didn't
Right.
have to dress up,
Right.
and deal with all of those things for so long that it became comfortable,
Yes.
and the idea of doing that again, just kind of made me feel some kind of way.
Yes. It almost feels antiquated.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And especially since we learned through that process that whatever could be done at the office could be done at the house.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it didn't make any sense to me to for that to continue. So tell us why you got started in this business. What is your background? What was your background before you got into HR? And what was the pivotal moment that said, this is my passion. This is where I need to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been in HR. I went to school for HR. So I'm like a real life HR professional. Worked in corporate for 20 plus years, went up the corporate ladder, was in HR executive leadership. And just for the sake of time, just really brief, one of the first things that started me to thinking about just having something different was my mom passing away. And it really caused me to think about life in a different way and what my legacy would be. And as I thought about that for the first time, I thought, this can't be it. Right.
Right? Yeah.
I had risen, I have had a great career in corporate, so there was no complaints there, but I really did not have a life at that time. Right. I was very high in executive leadership. I had all the perks and the things, but I didn't have a life.
Mhm.
And so her passing really caused me to take a look at my life and how I was spending my time. And so I started my business as a backup for the next phase of my career. It wasn't to quit immediately, but 2 years later, I ended up quitting just due to personal situations and having to move. With my husband's job, I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity, right?
Right.
But that's what started me thinking down that pathway. And it really, having my own business gave me time freedom and flexibility, but it also gave me the ability to get back to what I truly love, which is working with people one on one and being able to really get down to the core root of the issue and help them. Because in corporate, once you get to a certain level, you're in meetings and the people that you're making the changes for and trying to impact there's such a gap between you and them
Mhm.
that it's not that it's not good work, but it wasn't the work that I enjoyed. I want to touch the people.
Right.
And so
Right.
allow me to touch the people.
Right, exactly. Because when you can see the results of your work, like if you're coaching somebody or you're training them, like you meet them in their one particular way, and
Yes.
then but you continue to nurture them and give them tips on, do this differently, or maybe say this like that, or maybe,
Right.
engage in this kind of way, and you see them practicing, like actually doing what you say do,
Right.
you know, then they evolve over time. And being a part of that journey is, there's just nothing like it. I
There's nothing
completely
like
get
it.
it. Totally
Absolutely.
get that. Yeah. So, how would you say that your Fortune 500 HR background influenced your support of female entrepreneurs in team building?
Yeah, absolutely. So in corporate, I'll just say I worked in male dominated environments, male dominated environments in leadership. And so I felt like I was always fighting for the right, fighting for, the female manager to be paid the same as the male manager, or making sure that we didn't have different criteria, right? So I think that work spilled over into my business, to where women entrepreneurs were more, not that I wouldn't work with male entrepreneurs, but women entrepreneurs were attracted to me. And I tell people, I do work with men, just a few good men, right? But when it comes to, entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. Women, again, I think by nature, we are nurturers. We are, I got to do it all. And so what I find is that as that carries over when you open your own business, they are reluctant to hire and build teams because they feel like no one can do it like them. They feel like, well, what happens if they don't do it the way that I do it? And so they have a tendency in starting in business to hold very close and tight. Um,
Mm.
so I think I've been able to take my experience and specifically help women to say, hey, if you really want a business that's going to sustain you and what you're trying to build and that goes beyond you, you have to build a team. You
Yeah,
can't do it all. And actually your job is not to do it all. Your job is to lead the company with strategy and vision, but it's not to do the things.
that's
Right.
right.
And so I've been
That's
able to help them, break some of those myths down and also honor the reason why they started their business, right? A lot of them are mothers, they're caregivers, they're, sisters, they're friends. And when you work your own business and it's just you, then all you've done is replace who signs your paycheck. You're
Mhm.
working more than you did at corporate, or you're working more than you did in your other job.
Ooh,
And so
fact.
I think helping women have the freedom and remembering, okay, well, why did you start your business? Was it so that you could still carry two cell phones and still not be engaged at dinner? No, you didn't, right?
That's
So
right.
that's kind of to me how it kind of all marries together.
Yes, absolutely. That is so good. And you hit on all the points. Like, I mean, trying to wear all the hats, having a difficult time releasing, trusting that
Yes.
the work is going to get done just as well as if you had done it yourself. I can, all of that resonates with me. I'm looking at you like right here, we are eye to eye on that. Because I've been there myself. I know exactly what you were talking about.
Yes.
But as our business has grown and we've brought on new team members, I'm it's an adjustment
It
to
is.
releasing and then figuring out a system to go back and check because I've always
Yes.
heard trust but verify.
Yes. Inspect what you expect.
Right, right. Oh, I like that one. Inspect what you expect.
Yes.
So good. And then being the leader of an organization or of a company is very different than
Yes.
than when you're doing it all yourself. When you're
Absolutely.
leading and mentoring and training and
And especially if you're
developing.
used to working in a corporate environment where you've been, when I say told, like you haven't been the leader, right? You
Right,
may have been a leader, but you weren't the ultimate, decision maker. And so a lot of you have to trust your gut, you have to trust your instincts and be okay with taking risk, right?
right, right,
And be the
right.
leader.
Absolutely. And then all of that exposes so much of what you don't know as a
Yes,
leader. And so I think it's super crucial as part of that to surround yourself. That's what I did anyway. I surrounded myself with other people who know more and
yes,
who've been where I want to go, so that they could kind of mentor me,
yes,
for lack of a better word, in those places where I'm unfamiliar or this is just completely unfamiliar ground. Don't even know how to navigate this particular situation,
yes,
And so it's been great to have. I think that's another key component of
absolutely.
leading and developing as a female entrepreneur is knowing when you need to pull in the big guns of those people
Absolutely.
who gone before you,
Yes,
already laid the path and now need to help you stay on it or
right.
navigate it. So important. So Barbara, can you share some real life experiences of how you've helped a female entrepreneur with talent management challenges?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll talk about one particular client that has a travel agency. She had had her travel agency by the time we started working together for 10 plus years. And it was her and I would say probably 15 contractors, right? And so she had built it up, but she had not hired true W 2 employees. And so
Mhm.
I helped her hire her first W-2 employee, and that was back in 2020. So that was 4 years ago. Her revenue at the time was around 5 million. So she had been successful. It wasn't, small, but still small, right? And so fast forward, now 4 years later, her company is literally $20 million company, and she
Wow.
has 25 W-2 employees. And so I remember our first conversation and hiring the first one. It was very like, okay, we're going to write a job description. Let's talk about what they're going to do. Like the very first one. And to see how her business has grown from a profit standpoint and her team has grown. And it's funny now because her and I don't even talk anymore. I talk to her operations manager because that's what happens, right?
Wow.
I talk to her COO. That's who my contact is, right? Because
Wow.
she's now able to actually be the CEO of her company, and she's built an amazing team, and her revenue shows for it. And I tell
Mm-hmm.
people, it is not optional in building a team. If you want to scale your business, if you
Right.
want to have a business that's going to be beyond you, it's not optional. You have to have people. There's no
Absolutely.
way to do it. There is
Wow.
no way. And I'm very emphatic about that because I know for a fact that it's not possible without it. But I also know what the possibilities are if you will just hire that first person, hire that fifth person, hire a leader, because there's levels to this thing, right? So hire
Yeah.
your first person that's an individual contributor, right? They're just, doing a thing versus hiring a manager. Two completely different mindsets, two completely different things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Right.
that's a real life. I mean, I got plenty, but that's one that really sticks out.
Wow, that is so impressive. And what great coaching to get her to realize that she needed to make a change.
Right.
And then how great of her to actually follow through and
Yes.
hire the first one and
Yes.
now see the difference. See the difference.
Absolutely.
But how do you know when it's time? So if you have contractors,
Mhm.
and how do you know when it's time to bring on, or do you convert the ones that you have to W-2? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you could convert them if they're, the right people and all that. It all depends on what you need. But how do you know when it's time to kind of have a W-2 employee? There's a couple of different schools of thought, but here is what I will say. When you get to the point in your business where know you need more. So if you have a contractor, when you need more of that contractor's time, because remember, a contractor is working for you and everybody else. So it's kind of like the little side chick, for lack of a
Right.
better term. And so there's going to come a point, I call it tension, where you're going to need something quicker than what they can get it to you. You're going to need more of their time, their expertise, and they're going to be business as usual, respond within, I don't know, 48 hours, when that used to be fine. But all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute, what just happened? Like, you're calling a little bit extra, right? So that's, you feel that tension in your business. Or when things your service levels start to decrease. What I mean by that, if you normally respond to emails within 24 hours and you find yourself struggling to do that, or whatever product or service you're delivering, you're not as able to get things out of the door, whatever that may be. Again, there's tension, right? Things are not working like they normally would, and you're having to work more hours. That signals that it's time for you to hire somebody. And from a W-2 perspective to a contractor, a W-2, you have to think about, there's a certain loyalty when somebody works just for you versus, and contractors are not bad, but they have a place, right?
Right,
And
right.
you get up to a point in your business where you need dedicated support to be able to deliver the service you need to your clients or to your providers or whoever, your customers are.
Right.
You'll feel that tension. Does that help?
Right. It absolutely helps. It definitely helps. And I might be being a little selfish right now, being a female entrepreneur that I am.
Okay.
But that's really, really, really great advice. So good. And there is a world of difference between contractors and employees, and that
Absolutely.
loyalty for sure is definitely one of them. Although I think when you build a culture where your contractors enjoy coming to work or serving your clients and that sort of thing, that that loyalty is there as well. But
Right.
I see it's definitely, it seems like it'd be more assured if they were W-2'd.
Oh, absolutely. There is a world of difference. And what I tell people, and again, a lot of times it's not a pay thing sometimes, because sometimes you're using your contractors and you're paying, X amount of dollars and you feel like, well, I don't know that I can afford an employee. It's really just your fear and because it seems so permanent. It seems so real. And then
Right.
there's, laws and stuff that you have to comply with. And
Right.
so what I find is that it's not usually a revenue issue about hiring. It is the fear of the entrepreneur of just taking the first step
Mhm.
and getting with an expert that can help guide them through the process.
Mhm.
It's not rocket science at all. It's not
Mhm.
hard. It's just you got to know the laws and you got to know how to do it and do it the right way. But
Right.
that's what people like me, like we do this every single day of the week. It's no different than working with any other expert in their field. Work with someone who knows what they're doing, and that will help bring you along in hiring, a W-2 employee.
Got you. That makes perfect sense. So thank you so much for that. And I'm sure that resonates with so many in our audience who are in my similar, situation as a business owner with contractors, um, and thinking about what is the next step.
Right.
What does it look like? What does that mean? So, as Barbara, as you were thinking about your career in corporate America, and thinking about making the transition to career pathways consulting, what was it? Or I think you said that the timing just happened to be right, and that's why you
Yeah.
made the switch,
Yeah.
right? So, how would you say, or what would you say is the most important action for female entrepreneurs when they're building and retaining successful teams in today's competitive market? We talked about that at the beginning, how competitive things are. You called it an employees market.
Yes.
So, how do female entrepreneurs build and retain successful teams, like teams of
Yeah,
people?
absolutely. So one of the first things is that I always tell, female entrepreneurs is know your business and what and who you need to hire, right? So who you hire is really key. So it's not just about, okay, let me get some people. You have to hire the right people for the right positions. That is key. The only way to do that is first go back to your business. Where do you need the help? Where do you need the support? Like, what are the obstacles between you and more revenue? Where are the obstacles between you and more clients? And that's going to be different for everybody. So one is knowing what position you need to hire, and then having a great hiring process to select the right person or the right people. That's number one. Then once you get them in the door, now it's time to retain them. And the way that you retain them is having a great employee culture. What does that involve? That means first having a mission, vision, and some core values. People want to know, where are we headed, right? And also, what do we stand for? And those things become like the North Star. Your core values kind of say, this is how we operate as a business. We're going to operate. So, like, for example, my core values for my company are: we operate with integrity, we operate with excellence, right? And so those are two of the four that we have. And so my team, they know when push comes to shove, when it's a sticky situation, like I have a sticky situation with a client right now, and I go back to my principles of we operate with integrity, meaning we're going to do the right thing at whatever cost. And then
Right.
also we move with excellence. So the quality of the work is going to be excellent. So the point is that people need to know, how do we move about in this organization? So the mission, the vision, and the core values. Also, do you have things where people can look forward to development? How are you developing them? It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you have to promote them every 6 months, but how are they getting better by working with your company?
Right.
What
Right.
is the culture? Is it, can they, is it an open teamwork, collaborative culture? Is it an innovative culture? Like, whatever it is, all of those things help retain employees. And obviously the compensation, the
Mhm.
total package of the compensation. the
Hmm.
flexibility to work from home if that's relevant, in your industry. Obviously, there's some jobs where you got to be in person, right?
Right. Right.
But those are the things that will help build and retain.
Wow, that is so good. That is such great advice. So making sure that you know your core values, make sure you have a mission, a statement, and a vision that they can buy into, and making sure that you have a professional development plan for them, or and not in a bad way, but just something that resonates with them, that these are their goals and their aspirations for their life and the ways that they want to grow. And if you can help facilitate that as their employer,
Yeah,
then that will keep them loyal as well. And then creating those work from home environments as well, making that the overall compensation package.
right,
And I would think that, I mean, I'm sure there's a whole lot that goes into a total compensation
right,
package, but that all of the lack of expenses that go into having to go into um, an office are taken
right.
into consideration in terms of salaries and that sort of thing.
Right. And then also what I would say is that as a female entrepreneur, most of us have worked somewhere else, right? We didn't, graduate from college and start our own business, most people. And
Right.
so think about where you worked and the things that you really enjoyed that made you feel endearing to that company, like the best that you worked for, the best leader. Think about what those qualities were. And also think about the reasons why you left some jobs, right?
Right.
Those are clues because it's not different. Because remember, you were an employee before you were an employer.
That's
And
right.
so think about, and I think a lot of people just forget those things. Or I'm like, you have now the ability to shape the culture the way it's your company.
That's
So
right.
make it great. Who,
Mhm.
how would you want to work for you, right? What would be
Right.
those aspects? What would be those things? And so I think also that helps as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Reflecting on your past experiences and what you learned not to do.
Yes,
And the different people who set really great examples that you want to
yes,
emulate. That makes perfect sense. And now I'm going to go back just a little bit to professional development. Does professional development and contractors go together, or is it only for employees?
that would only be for employees. So that again, you would blur the lines a whole lot and really be, more illegal. You don't develop your contractors. And so let me just say this because for anybody who's listening, when it comes to a contractor, they bring their own expertise to the table. So if they're a contractor, they should be a subject matter expert in whatever, field you're contracting them in. You have a scope of work that says you're going to do these things for this amount of money for this amount of time. That's
Right.
basically the way a contractor works. But they bring their own equipment, their own expertise, their own tools, their own supplies. They work when they want to, you know, within the confines of the agreement that you guys have set up. But you
Right.
would not include them in professional development. You wouldn't pay for them to go get training. That would be absolutely a no-no.
Got you. Oh, well, thank you so much for that expertise. I'm sure our audience truly appreciates that very much, because it's hard to know. There are rules that
There
say,
are absolutely
what is the
rules.
definition of an employee and what's the definition of a contractor?
Yes.
As an employer, you need to know that.
And I will
So,
tell you that there are a lot of states that's really cracking down on specific laws around workers' comp excuse me, workers' comp, contractors and employees. Because if you're treating a contractor like an employee, the way the government sees is that you're really just evading taxes, right?
mm,
And so there has to be a very distinct manner and a line about how you're treating your country and doing it the right way.
right.
And so there's plenty of states that are really cracking down on that. And again, if you get found, that you have not done it the right way, then you get fined. Right. And so
Hmm.
it's not anything to play. And I see a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are using their contractors like employees because it's the easy button. But really, you're just evading taxes.
Right, that part.
And so you
So
have to be very careful.
definitely, yeah, need to be aware of what the rules are, what
Yes.
the definitions are. If you have to, hire Barbara
Yes.
so she can teach you, train you, and let you know what you don't know,
Right.
so that you can stay compliant and have nothing but success in your business.
Yes.
So, Barbara, I know we're running out of time, and I definitely want our audience to be able to stay in touch with you, be able to reach out if they have any questions, follow up to this show. How can we reach you outside after the show?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn and on Instagram under my name, Barbara Mason. And then also my website is www.careerpathwaysconsulting.com. When you click, there's a button to get on our email list or to send me a question or contact me.
Excellent. And we're looking at your awesome pages right now at careerpathwaysconsulting.com. Fantastic. It's a beautiful website.
Thank you.
And that's how people can find you. Facebook at Barbara Mason, LinkedIn, Barbara Mason, and that's BARBARAMASON for Barbara Mason. So fantastic. So, any closing remarks for our audience, things that they need to take away? If they don't hear anything, what do they need to hear before
Yes.
we leave?
The one thing that you need to hear is make sure that you invest in your people and building a team. So if you're listening and you have a group full of contractors and you know that it's time to make the plunge into W-2 employees, do it. If you have one or two W-2 employees, but you know that you need to hire more, or they're going out the back door, then work on retention. But invest in your people. It is the lifeblood of your business.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Invest in your people. Well, you heard it here first, y'all. From Barbara Mason, our HR subject matter expert. Do what she says. Invest in your people. And if you have any questions, reach out to her on
Absolutely.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, on her website, Pathways Consulting is the name of her company. Barbara, it's been an absolute joy having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
You were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.